So, swallowing hard and accepting the prospect of a Republican takeover of one or both houses in Congress. And by the way, here was a kind of harrowing datum. The odds of Republicans taking both are slightly higher than the Dems holding on just to the Senate. But anyway, so the Republicans take over at least the House. What does that portend? What are we looking at for the next couple years in the politics and policy of this country?
You're looking at endless investigations. Like I said earlier, the Republicans are uninterested in actually governing. It's become a grievance, social media owning the libs, trolling operation that has yet to put forth an actual agenda of what they will do for this country. What they have shown us is that they're willing to compromise democracy. They're willing to take illiberal, authoritarian steps to accomplish that power grab. And Kevin McCarthy, I'm still skeptical whether he actually becomes the speaker because
That's a
it
great.
depends.
Elaborate there, please. Who do
Yeah,
you
I've
think?
said
Yeah,
this. I've said this
yeah.
for over a year now that I will be very surprised if Kevin McCarthy ever actually has the gavel. That the increase in MAGA candidates. I mean, you have 299 election deniers currently running for office in this country, many of them for Congress, and many of them may get elected. And depending on how large that margin of victory is, depends on how much power the Marjorie Taylor Greene wing of the party, which is growing exponentially. There's a reason why Kevin McCarthy had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who should be an absolute outlier. She should be shunned for her antics, her racism, her anti-Semitism, and her conspiracy theory nonsense. But she was embraced by Kevin McCarthy when he rolled out the new commitment to America. She was by his side. Why? Because he needs that wing of the party to vote for him to be speaker. I firmly believe Donald Trump is sitting back, waiting to fully embarrass Kevin McCarthy. When he can, he's going to pull the rug out from under him because Kevin has not been sufficiently loyal enough, despite how debased he has debased himself with Trump over the years. But Trump does not forget what Kevin McCarthy said about him after January 6th. He never forgets those things and doesn't feel he's been sufficiently loyal. He gets off on the idea of humiliating people, and he's just waiting to do that for Kevin McCarthy. So you have others that are waiting in the wings to take McCarthy out as well, depending on how many MAGAs are elected into the Congress. So you're not going to see anything good coming out of a Republican-controlled Congress. You'll have Jim Jordan and all the rest of them. You think Benghazi was bad? Wait. Hunter Biden's laptop and Joe Biden will be impeached. They'll go after Merrick Garland. It's not going to be a pretty couple of years with Republicans in the Congress.
So I would just say I agree with that, Tara. But one ironic point that historians will note is that if Kevin McCarthy hadn't gone to Mar-a-Lago right after impeachment and made up to Trump and kissed his ass, as Trump says, J.D. Vance does, Trump would have been finished.
That's right.
Mitch McConnell had just given a speech after impeachment saying that he should be prosecuted. If you listen closely to the speech, and if Kevin McCarthy had just said, "We're done with him, we're moving on," it would have been all over. That was a historic, disastrous mistake for the whole world. I agree with your basic analysis, but I think it redounds to the benefit of the Democrats for 2024. Jim Jordan is not an appealing character. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not appealing, and it will help the Democrats. They were not going to get any legislation through if Republicans took control anyway. And the only real issue on the Senate side is if they can hang on. Say they pick up Pennsylvania, even if they lose Nevada, and they still have a 50-50 majority. If they can hang on, they can confirm judges. If they lose the Senate, then they won't get any judges through. So really, in some ways, the whole election is just about whether Democrats will be able to continue to appoint judges.
Just to build on all this stuff, I think, I'm about to post a piece on this, on the likelihood of debt ceiling chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a really important reason that we're going to see debt ceiling chaos is exactly what we're talking about here. You may remember that Trump described Kevin McCarthy as my Kevin, and he meant that, right? And so unlike McConnell, whose power base in the Senate does not rely in any way on Trump, McCarthy made the decision that the only way he was ever going to become speaker was if he could mobilize the Trump constituency behind a Republican House takeover. And so he's forever indebted to Trump. And remember, Robert Draper's book tells us that Kevin McCarthy actually feared that Trump's supporters were going to kill him.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And then only
justifiably.
He spent the next 20 months helping Trump cover up what had happened.
So, Greg, can I ask you a question about your debt ceiling reporting?
Yeah.
Why aren't the Democrats planning in the lame duck session to pass a debt ceiling increase that will take us past the 2024 election?
Well, that's what my piece that's going up very soon is all about.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether they're going to do that or not. There's a new push for it, which is what I'm reporting on. And there are various ways you could do it. You could actually do more than just extend the debt ceiling up to a level that it'll never reach under Biden. You could also create some sort of formula, like saying something like, the debt ceiling will be 20 times the amount spent on these 10 major agencies. Then you don't have to put a hard number on it.
Why would they not do this? I mean, do they want to have another 2011 where they play chicken with the full faith and credit of the United States? They know the
It's worse than that, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's going to be worse. I think they're going to, there's going to be an effort to use the debt ceiling to remember Trump attacked McConnell when McConnell caved last year on the debt limit.
That's right.
So why isn't this a no-brainer? The next election's not for 2 years. They won't pay that much of a political price for doing this. I don't get why this isn't definitely on tap to be done in late November or December.
Well, I can tell you this, that if the shoe were on the other foot, there's no question in my mind Republicans would do this. Republicans have been cutthroat when it comes to pushing forward legislation they want, not really worrying about what the other side thinks, feels, what the precedent is. Mitch McConnell is a brilliant tactician in that respect, and he got everything he wanted when he was Senate Majority Leader. And I don't know why. I don't understand why Democrats aren't more aggressive
what's the
that
argument
way.
Against it? I know you haven't done your piece yet. I don't want you to spoil your piece, but what is the argument in the Democratic Party against using the lame duck session to put this ridiculous issue out of its misery?
So trying to think of it from their point of view, I can think of only two. The lame duck calendar is going to be very crowded. There's a lot of must pass stuff to do. Got to, fix the Electoral Count Act to guard against the next coup, right? The other thing is, let's face it, a bunch of moderates aren't going to want to vote on a higher debt ceiling, which strikes me as insanely short-sighted, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're worried about politics, you really should worry a lot more about Republicans trying to melt down the economy heading into 2024 than you should about some obscure vote on something that nobody understands.
Because in 2024, they'll run on the recession that was caused as a result of it and blame Biden for it instead of them when they were actually the ones who did it. So that there's every motivation to do it.
I was just utterly shocked to read in Politico the other day that the White House thinks that McCarthy will cave on aid to Ukraine because they'll be afraid of the political blowback if Ukraine loses. And I'm like, have you been paying attention for the last 10 years?
Good Lord.
All right. So stay tuned. And by now, actually, Greg Sargent's op-ed, you can see it in the Washington Post.